Welcome back to the Man United stream. Hope you're doing well out there. It's Sunday and it's the day after that huge disappointing loss against Brighton at home at Old Trafford. We'll discuss that and a lot more in today's show, but before we kick off, please make sure you hit that like button on the video so it gets sent out to a lot more Manchester United fans. And well, if you're new to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. The channel has been growing massively and lots of you have been subscribing and supporting the channel, so thank you so much for that. It's really overwhelming to hear all that support coming from all you guys out there, all you Manchester United fans who are loving the content. So please smash that like button on the video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Okay, so let's start this discussion of yesterday's game. It was such a huge disappointment watching that game. I mean, I can't even try and sugarcoat it. I can't even try and sugarcoat it because there is no way I can turn around and tell you that was a great game to watch. It was awful. Everyone I've spoke to, everyone has said the same thing, which is it was just a shock of a game to watch. You didn't expect Manchester United to not compete on any level. I mean, apart from the first, I'd say 15 minutes of the game where Manchester United actually looked dangerous and were attacking Brighton. Apart from that time within the game, after the 15 minutes, it was all Brighton and they did not look like Manchester United were even landing on them. It was just horrendous to watch. Now, I could have come out and tried to sugarcoat the whole performance of yesterday by saying, look, injuries, we're suffering from so much injuries, and Manchester United had a lot of players missing, from Luke Shaw to Varane to Amrabat even. We forgot all these players missing, Mount and stuff, and we've got Anthony not there. So, that's why we didn't perform. But look, even if we had all those players on the pitch, I still think the result would not have changed, and that is the disappointing thing. There are some serious issues going on at Manchester United. We all can see that happening. And one of them is even Ten Hag himself, and he has to look at himself in the mirror. Now, one key factor that stood out to me in the entire game, and it was obvious to see even off the ball, was the difference in physicality and stamina between the teams. One team just did not look tired. It just looked relaxed on the ball. Their passing ability was amazing. They just looked like the home team, and that was Brighton. Brighton actually looked like the home team at Old Trafford. It was absolutely shocking to watch. I was sat there speaking to myself saying, wait up, how is this happening? They're just too calm. They are absolutely calm on the ball. How have Brighton come to Old Trafford with the record that Manchester United have got there right now of not losing a game and playing the way they are? It was just astonishing to watch. And I was there thinking, wait, they're going to crack. Their passing's going to start letting them down and they're going to get pressurised. But nothing of that happened. They just looked totally calm. They looked like they were in first gear, relaxed. They didn't even break a sweat. There's so much to cover in this show that I could go on for hours and hours talking about what is actually wrong with Manchester United and what needs sorting out. But we haven't got that time. We haven't got all that time to sit here and mull over what's gone wrong and why Manchester United lost yesterday's game and why they look like they're at risk of losing a lot more games this season. We've seen it from the start of the season. Casemiro is being tasked to handle the whole entire midfield on his own defensively, and he's got too much space to cover, and Casemiro isn't one of those players. He can't cover all that area, and he just looks lethargic and slow and sluggish in that centre of the park. He's not as quick and agile to get to the ball, and that's why many fans yesterday were looking at Casemiro and scapegoating him as the only reason for why Manchester United were struggling. And yes, he is one of the causes, but he's not just the cause, and that's why we have to sit back and look at the entire team of Manchester United and realise that it's a unit, and the whole unit is failing to do what it's meant to do. And if there was ever an example of the opposite of that, that was Brighton yesterday. The Brighton players are not superstars. They're not amazing on what they do, but they're doing a job, and as a unit, they're performing really well. And I've said this time and time again, you need physicality in the Premier League. You cannot get away with just playing non-physical players in the Premier League and think you can get away with it. You cannot do that. And that's why even Eriksen, for me, is not the player that Manchester United actually need on the pitch. And I'm astonished how he gets to play so many minutes for Manchester United. I really am. And as soon as you read the team selection before the game, you knew that if the United lost this game, Ten Hag would get it in the neck, and that's exactly what's happening because his team selection was a bit off. Everyone reading the team sheet was surprised not to find a right winger out there. We thought Pellistri might be playing, if not Garnacho might be playing, but he did not do any of that. He put McTominay on and he played Bruno slightly out on the wing, and that did not work. I mean, it was just a terrible game to watch. And I'm a huge Erik ten Hag fan. I think he's a really, really good manager. I think he's one of the best we've had since Fergie has left. But questions need to be asked of him yesterday. I think he has to hold his hands up and realise that he made a mistake in yesterday's game, that the selection that he went with was wrong and the team setup was wrong, and also the substitutions that he made were wrong apart from Hannibal, who came on. And Hannibal coming on actually points to what I'm actually trying to say. Hannibal brought the legs. He brought some energy in the middle of the park, and that's what United haven't got. In Bruno, in Eriksen and Casemiro, they're just not them type of players. They're not physical players. They're not players who can run around a lot. And Casemiro, yes, physically he's strong, but he's not going to get to that ball quick enough to go and challenge for it. And that is where the problem lies. We haven't got anyone who's doing all that running. We haven't got any players with engines on there. They're just lethargic. The whole team looked lethargic. Whereas Brighton looked really quick, really fast on the ball. The passing by Brighton was slick. It was easy. They just ran rings around United. And it's really embarrassing to even say that as a Manchester United fan. To watch your team get bossed at Old Trafford like that was just awful. I could see all the faces of all the fans there, and it was just horrendous to see, because everyone knew the writing was on the wall. We all knew Manchester United were not going to come back. Not what they did with Nottingham Forest. They were not going to come back and win this game. It was that obvious to watch. And even when Hannibal scored that goal, which was a good goal, but you knew it was a lucky goal. It caught them off guard. Brighton were not expecting that, and that was a good goal, but we knew even then United would not be able to get back and win this game or even draw, because Brighton just looked easy. They just looked chilled. It looked like Brighton were playing in training or something. They were just so relaxed. They were just laid back at everything they were doing. Brighton always looked like in control of the ball, in control of the game. And United looked like they were always chasing the ball after that first 15 minutes of the game. If United were going to do any damage, it should have been done within that 15 minutes. And after that, it was just all Brighton. Now, our main threat was coming from Rashford. Rashford, every time he was getting on the ball, looked dangerous. He looked like he's causing Brighton trouble, and that's it. There was no other player that was doing that. I heard some criticism of Rashford, but I think that's really unfair, because he was our main threat. He was our main player on the pitch, so you cannot say, oh, Rashford didn't play well enough. But the player of the match for Manchester United was Sergio Reguilón for me. I mean, what a game he had. What a debut game he had. He came on and he actually played really, really well and caused a lot of problems for Brighton down that wing. It's not all negative. Let's not get completely down about the game. Look, we have got Mainoo, we've got Amrabat, and we've got Mount yet to come back in again. Amrabat playing that defensive midfield role and covering a lot more area than Casemiro does will make a difference to Manchester United. But there's lots of other things that we really, really need to focus on to get better. Our defence is not good enough. Lindelof playing in centre-back is not good enough. And this is why Manchester United were so keen on going and getting another centre-back this summer transfer window. But they were left with Harry Maguire on the bench. Now, whatever you want to say about Harry Maguire, he is a no-no. We cannot play Harry Maguire in centre-back and think that's good enough. It's not good enough for the Premier League. Now, my personal opinion has always been that we bring in young players, fast players, players that can play for 90 minutes and not get tired, have enough stamina to last the entire game. That is what makes a difference in the Premier League games, and this is why I would urge Ten Hag to play the youngsters, play Pellistri, play Hannibal, play Mainoo, play Garnacho. Them are the players that are going to get you the games and win. It's worth it. Just go and risk it on them, because they're the future of Manchester United. We need to invest in them. It's all well and good having players like Casemiro and Eriksen playing in the team, but they're not a long-term solution for Manchester United. So we need to be looking at something long-term. We need to look at someone who is actually going to play for us long-term, and we're not going to have to replace them after a couple of years. This is the problem with Manchester United. We've looked for quick solutions ever since we've been under the Glazers. This is the problem that we've had at Manchester United under the Glazers, that we've always looked for quick solutions to the problem. We've always thought, right, okay, how can we bring in someone who will fix this mess right now but not think about the future? We've bought in players that are end of their careers and then expecting them to do wonders at Manchester United. It doesn't actually work, and then we're even having to replace them after a year or two. This is the biggest problem. We need long-term solutions in that team. We need young players to come in and play there and develop and become better Man United players. The game yesterday against Brighton just highlighted that even further. What Brighton tells you is that you don't need superstars playing for your team. What you do need is work ethic, and you need the right ethos to be playing for Manchester United. If you don't have that, everything goes kaput. You're not worth anything. You're not going to win any games. You're just going to struggle. Now, we have have to accept that Ten Hag is under a lot of pressure, not just with the stuff on the field, but off the field. What's going on with Sancho, Anthony, and even the Glazers is not helping him do his job. You have to deal with all that crap that's going on off the field and then concentrate on the game itself. How the hell do you manage that? How do you keep your players focused? This is the biggest problem, and this is why everyone keeps pointing to Glazers, and I keep bringing it back to the Glazers because they are a distraction. They're the biggest distraction in the whole club. They're the biggest elephant sat there in middle of the club. Everyone knows that they are not good for the club, and this is why they need to sell up and get the hell out of Manchester United, because it comes down from the owners. You're hearing lots of football pundits out there saying, oh, it's got nothing to do with the Glazers, and the Man United fans need to get over this whole Glazer link with the games and need to understand that Erik ten Hag and the team are not playing well enough. We cannot accept that, because the Glazers are heading the club. They are setting the culture of the club. They are setting the standards for the club. And if those standards and culture are not right, well, the players are not going to play well enough. The manager's not going to do well enough because he can't control the players, because the players don't give a crap about the manager. They know that after a couple of games, if everything goes kaput, the manager will get rid of, and we'll still be sat here on our heavy contracts. That's why Maguire doesn't give a crap about what Ten Hag told him about leaving the club, because he knows he's got the power to stay there. He knows that the Glazers want him there, and this is what all the players do when they realise that you are not in control and they know that the manager has got no say in the matter. They will take liberties, and this is what players do. You do it, I do it, you do it, everyone would do it. If you had the chance to take liberties, you would do it. If the manager's on your back telling you to work harder, telling you to train harder, but if you know in the back of your head that he hasn't got the ultimate say, that the Glazers will have the final say on everything, then you don't actually give a crap about what Ten Hag wants you to do. You don't care, because you know that you'll get paid. The owners are the ones who set all this up, and this is why they are to blame. This is why we're not doing well, and the answer is not let's get rid of another manager. The answer is not let's have a complete overhaul of the team. The answer is that we need to get new owners, we need to set a new culture in place, we need to set a new work ethic in place, a new ethos, and that is when things will change. You can see it with teams like Brighton, like Brentford. What is the key difference in these teams? It's the ethos around the club. It's what's going on outside of the club, what the owners are like, what they're providing for the club and the players and the manager. That is key, and Manchester United owners and the board are not doing that, and this is why they are to blame for what is going on at the club and on the pitch. Ten Hag can only do what he can do, and that's it. It's beyond him to do anything more. And results like this and the ethos around the club tears up the fan base. Yes, the fan base completely starts self-destructing and arguing amongst itself about who's good and who's not, and who should be gone and who shouldn't be gone. Some people saying Ten Hag should be gone. Some people say Bruno Fernandes is not good enough captain and he should be gone. Fans arguing amongst each other about what's right for Manchester United. But we have to remain united. We have to stay together. We have to stick together. We have to remember there is one big elephant in the room, in the Glazers, that are to blame for everything. We need unity amongst ourselves to take these people out and bring our club back to basics and the standards that we've always abided by, because those are the standards now that have been taken up by clubs like Brighton, like Brentford. These clubs are coming out of nowhere and using that same basic model that Manchester United had many years ago under Sir Alex Ferguson, which was hard work and setting the right standards, and a loss was not acceptable under Sir Alex Ferguson. I really do apologise if I've ranted on, but really I'm really holding back. There's so much more I could actually say, but I'm really holding back. But if you're enjoying this, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Like always, we want to hear from you, so please drop your comments below on what you thought what went wrong in yesterday's game. What was the main cause for the loss? Why did Manchester United get battered by Brighton? How did that happen? How did they look so good on the ball? Why could Manchester United not pressure them enough? We already knew that Brighton were going to play this style of football. You've seen it in the past games that they've played. They hold the ball, they give it to the keeper, they let the teams come onto them and pressure them, and then they see the gaps appearing and ping the balls out, and that's how they play. We all knew that this was going to happen. Why wasn't Ten Hag and his team prepared for that to happen? Also, drop your comments on what you think about the injuries. Do you think Amrabat, Meno and Mount coming back in will make a difference to the team? Or do you think Manchester United need to change the style of play? Now, if you know me, you know I'm a huge Erik Ten Hag fan. I like the way he's setting the standards and making sure that players are working hard. But unfortunately, his tactics yesterday were questionable. I think lots of things that he did yesterday, I did question and think, well, this does not look right. Why is he doing this? Why is he playing this player there? Why is he bringing on these players? It just looked a bit messy. It looked like he was just throwing everything at Brighton, didn't actually know what to do, didn't actually know how to combat them, and well, Brighton did us over on the tactics. As a manager, I feel like you've got to constantly be evolving throughout the whole game, making sure that you're reacting to changes that the other team is making. Now, Brighton did this. Brighton saw what Manchester United set up like within the first 15 minutes, saw that it wasn't working, and they switched it up. And I think that's when Erik Ten Hag should have reacted and then again switched up the team. He should have had it already pre-planned that Brighton were going to shift up and do this once they see what Manchester United have set up like in that diamond shape, and then he should have had a counter-attack on that. He should have changed it up even further. That's what great managers do. We all know also that Ten Hag really struggles to make any changes early on in the game. He sits and waits and only starts making changes when it's past the 75-minute mark, and I think that's really late. I think in these kind of games you've got to react, and you've got to react quick. I think if Ten Hag had made the changes early on in the second half, bringing on players like Hannibal, like Garnacho, I think it would have made a bigger difference to the game and may have altered the outcome of the game. But these changes came too late for my liking, and the game was already over. We also saw that Højlund got taken off and Martial brought on instead of him the ghost Martial, who does nothing on the pitch. So I don't understand why they bring on Martial, but clearly he thinks Martial can go in there and do something, but he does nothing in the entire game. I really don't understand why Martial was brought on. But this change of bringing Højlund off wasn't made out of choice. I think they're still being very precautious around Højlund and his back injury, and I think they're only allowing him to play a certain amount of game and then bringing him off and bringing someone else on. And in this case, it was Martial, who literally we forgot about when he was on the pitch. There are lots and lots of concerns and issues for Ten Hag to deal with at Manchester United. One, obviously, being the personnel as well. He needs better players that are confident and can do the job right. You knew Manchester United were in trouble when Sergio Reguilón crossed in a really fast-paced cross, and the centre-back for Brighton just chested it to the goalkeeper. He made it look so easy. It was incredible to watch. You're thinking, who the hell is this Brighton team? What is up with them? How are they so good? I mean, we'll find out later on whether it was Brighton that were really good or whether Manchester United were just really poor. I think later on this season we'll find out more and more what the difference was. Please drop your comments below on what you thought about yesterday's game, and let us know what you think about the midweek game coming up against Bayern Munich. Do you think Manchester United have got any chance going into that game, and what do they need to change for that game? Drop your comments below. Let us know what you think. Please smash that like button, and like we've always said, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. You are watching the Man United Streamer channel by the fans for the fans.